Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So the first chapter of the Gita, titled The Yoga of Arjuna's Sorrow, Arjuna Vishada Yoga, right? So this chapter prepares the backdrop, prepares the ground as it were for the philosophy to follow, which starts in chapter 2. So we discussed or have been discussing over the past few weeks when we started the Gita that the whole problem starts when you personalize your life. You let your egocentric desires come in the way of your obligatory duties in the world. So in the what was that chapter, the verse, 25th verse, Krishna, without speaking, gives the first lesson to Arjuna. He's not spoken so far. We're on the 30th verse and he still hasn't spoken. So in the 25th verse, going back a few verses, what did Krishna do? He gave Arjuna the first lesson. He took the chariot in front of Bhishma and Drona, the two stalwarts from the Kaurava side, who were fighting the war not because they liked to do it, not because they wanted to do it, but because as soldiers they ought to do it. They follow the orders of the king. Similarly, this was the indirect message, the first message. He put the chariot in front of them so Arjuna understands, just as they are doing their obligations, so should you. Don't look at your personal angle in this. You are a warrior, and a warrior's duty is to fight for righteousness. You've got a ready-made opportunity to do that. So it didn't make a difference, because see how psychologically you must understand how he puts it. 26 and 27. There Partha means Arjuna, saw standing fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, blah blah blah. He goes on. So he is only seeing his personal family, friends, teachers, and that's the fall. That is the fall not only in your day-to-day life, that is the spiritual fall, because you are the self, the supreme reality, Atman, divinity, God, whatever word you want to call it. That is your real identity. But it is covered because you have personalized, you have accepted this body, mind, intellect, your ego, your individuality as your own, which is not your own. This is the spiritual message. And then you further complicate it. So even though you've fallen into this individuality, your obligation is to get back to the self. That's why you're born as a human being. But far from doing that, you personalize your life even more. And the biggest impediment is this me and mine. I, this individual, and the family is what comes out of this I. Your children, your parents, or what is related to this I. And completely immersed in that, you lose sight of your mission and purpose as a human being. So that's what has happened. And you may say, what's your problem? I don't have a problem. It's your problem. Because the minute you personalize, that's the 27th verse, filled with deep pity, uttered this in sorrow. So all the sorrow and misery in life, all the worry and anxieties because of your personalization. You have got into this ego and the desires arising out of the ego. So that's why you suffer. There's no other cause of suffering. Don't blame the world. It's your desires and attachments that cause all the suffering. It's your mind. So that's what he talks about. He, the son of Kunti, seeing all these kinsmen, uttered this in sorrow. And the sorrow doesn't stop there. So when you're mentally agitated, that's the 28th and 29th and 30th verse, which we did last time. I told you I'll explain it. He says, seeing these, O Krishna, one's own kinsmen, swajanam drishtva, my limbs fail, sidanti mama gatrani, mukham cha parishusyati, my mouth is parched, vepatuscha sharire me, my body trembles, my hair stands on end. The great Gandiva, his name of his bow falls from my hand. And my skin burns. My mind whirls as it were. Brahmativa same manaha. I'm not able to stand. So when your mind is agitated, you can't think clearly. And when you cannot think clearly, you will not be able to act properly. It's like an alcoholic, when he's under the influence of alcohol, he can't think clearly. Would you give him a legal contract to read and sign? Unless you want to swindle him, then you can. So he can't act properly. He could be a great lawyer, but his mind is gone. So that's what happens in life. In everything. See, these tennis fellows, they say, I was so nervous, I got cramps, then they couldn't play. So many times it happens. So what is happening? He's hit that shot millions of times, but that worry about winning the match, the trophy, the body starts getting agitated, cramping. Mind is full of worry, anxiety. He can't think clearly. This ball, what has to be done? He makes all kinds of mistakes. Everybody. So, when you have a powerful intellect, you clearly see your obligations in life. That's Vedanta. Your mind remains calm and your action becomes dynamic, productive. So I went to an office on Friday. The fellow is telling all his colleagues, Happy Friday, we made it. You mean we made it? And they're all like, yeah, we made it. Made it. There's so much agitation for the work. Friday is like, call it Happy Friday. I say, I'm coming on Monday. I'll wish them wretched Monday. Happy wretched Monday. It's like crazy. See, your action agitates you so much. It's very interesting. So, what is your idea of happiness? What is everybody's idea of happiness? Weekends, Vacation. Which means what? You are happy running away from what you should be doing. Right? That is happiness for everybody. So he said, Happy Friday. He said, what are you doing for the weekend? I said, I work on the weekend. Really? Oh my God. I mean, this is what I do. I mean, for me, it's not work. It's entertainment. But looking at all the faces, knowing nothing goes in, it's entertainment. So, why? Why can't you feel the same on Monday morning? Because your mind is agitated. And the reason the mind is agitated is one and one alone: selfishness. So Arjuna is looking at it. When I say personalization, it means selfishness. You're looking at life from a selfish angle. You will be forever in sorrow and suffering. So that's what I think. Somebody asked a question, they just told me before class. Can you put it up? One of you sent in a question. Indira, what do you mean by a higher purpose? Please give some examples. So, higher purpose in life means you should choose a goal, what you want to achieve, but the nature of that goal should be something beyond just fulfilling your selfish desires. So, for example, a doctor goes to work. What is their attitude? Genuinely, they have to ask themselves. Some of you are doctors. Why do you go? How much money can I make? I'll finally get that BMW I've been dreaming of this year. Or I will get that bigger home. That is why you go. Everybody. Or it could be, how can I relieve my patient's pain? How can I make them pain free? That's why they've come to you, right? Serve them. It doesn't mean you don't charge your fee, but your attitude should be to serve. So all of you should have a higher purpose. If you really want, that is the fundamental principle of Vedanta, Karma Yoga. You will learn it in chapter 3. It beautifully gives it out. Should never stop work, but the work should have a higher purpose. The same work you're doing. You're working for a company. Think in terms of how you can help the whole organization, not what you can get out of it. Can I finally get that bonus? Can I get promoted? There's nothing wrong with getting promoted. But that is incidental. What you get out of it should be incidental. It should not be the purpose you work for. You see the difference? That's the whole change. So, what are you living for? Just yourself and your family. All the ants live for that. All the frogs. Today morning I saw the tadpoles were. There'll be a mother frog and all the frogs are. What are they living for? Themselves and their family. They have no choice. They just feed themselves, they propagate their species and they die. Now what is so different what you're doing? Kabira says that. No, I often quote it, right? Raat gawai, soe ke, divas gawai, khai, हीरा जन्म अनमोल था, कौड़ी बदले जाए. Your night is wasted in sleeping. Your day is wasted in eating. Eating means the next sense enjoyment. That's all you live for. Ira Janam, you have this diamond, invaluable human life that can get you to the self, infinite enlightenment. And you've exchanged it for what? Kaudi badle jaye. For pennies, trinkets. Till the body wears out and dies. What have you achieved? Nothing. Nothing different from an animal. Even after you die also, you're going to be thinking, before you die also, after me, what will happen to my children? Anything you can't think beyond you and yours. So that's a higher purpose. So what Vedanta says is you can't get away from what you're doing, but at least what you're doing, do it with a higher purpose. Even in your family, why do you go on chewing their head, Do this for me, do that for me, my children should function how I want, my wife should do what I want, my husband. Instead, it should be how can I serve, whatever way. And most often, service is leaving them alone. Just leave them alone, right? That is service. Let them live their life. Even giving another person freedom to live their life is service to them. No, you want them. So anything you can convert to a higher purpose. What more examples you want? So genuinely looking at life from how can I be of some service. So Arjuna does the exact opposite. Seeing my own kinsman. See, again he's repeating. He said that earlier. Now again in the 28th, 29th verse he repeats it. My own kinsman. So beautifully he puts it. Arjuna starts few verses ago, take me and let me see who I have to fight. Who he knows. He knows. 13 years he's been planning this war. He knows exactly who's going to be there. He doesn't even need to see. He's only seeing tactically what he needs to do first day. And the whole thing changes. So this is what has happened even metaphysically. You are the self and you have shifted the whole focus from the self within to this body, mind, intellect, to your selfishness, and you suffer. So Vedanta is all about changing that focus back to the self. And if you can do that, you're made. And that's what the whole Gita is all about. I told you, right? What is the Gita sandwiched between two words? Dharma, mama. Starts with the word dharma, ends with the word mama. My dharma, my nature, my reality. What am I? Who am I? And the rest of the Gita is to teach you how to get back to that I, which your parents will not teach you because they don't know. Your teachers cannot teach you, they don't know. Your friends, family, nobody knows. You have to navigate this yourself. So this is where we are so far. Okay? So before we continue, ahimsa.
Thank you, Guruji. So when Arjuna says, "Take me to see who I need to fight," would you consider that like almost the beginning of his breakdown? Because if he already knew who he was going to fight, why does he need to go see them? Maybe if he hadn't been placed in front of them, it wouldn't have devolved down into what it did.
No, he was just wanting to figure out the tactics, right? You can't go in blind. He needs to see where everybody is. He doesn't know all that. The battle formation and all that. In that sense, he said, let me see what all I need to do today. And Krishna knows this is going to happen. He knows he's weak. So he tries to prop him up by putting him in front of the two people who are on the other side who are fighting purely because they have to. They don't want to. They know what they're doing is wrong. But they are bound by their duty as soldiers. So he gives him his first message in that sense. You get it? Yeah.
So if someone is working not for money or name and fame, but to keep their mind occupied with the abilities they have. So, keeping the mind occupied, is it still considered lower purpose or selfishness, or it is higher purpose?
A person may not be working for money, name, fame, but they are working to keep their minds occupied, right? What is that? Is that selfish? Is your question? See, you have to act first of all. If you don't act, obviously, what else will you do? See, there are desires within you which propel you to act. So many people tell me who've earned enough money and they've stopped acting. He said, your life is literally hell because they need to do something. That's what I tell them. There's no such thing as retirement. You will stagnate and you will devolve, right? You have to act. Whatever you do, there has to be action. Day should be full. You shouldn't have time to sit and think, what should I do? There should be a plan and program. The question is why? See, one is you're doing something because it entertains you. That's selfish. Purely for entertainment. One is you do something so that same action, so you can serve others. So you must direct it to that goal, whatever it is. Even your mechanical action should be directed to a higher purpose. See, you're exercising. For what? To keep yourself fit. For what? So that this body can be used to reach the self. There should be a purpose behind it, right? Not just I'll be healthy, so hopefully I can see my great grandchildren also. That is why people want to live long. I don't want to go before you graduate. So they want to keep themselves alive just to see their below their degree. What is the higher? It's just for a selfish emotion, nothing else.
It's the intention.
So it's intention. So anything you're doing, if it's merely for the sake of doing it, it is definitely some selfish. To relieve boredom is also selfishness. So, therefore, you must have a plan and program in life, and your day should be structured. What all I ought to do to achieve that goal. See, like in the academy, we have a 3-year course, right? Every hour is structured. So the student just has to follow that. Now you have to make your own schedule. So early morning, there's that is non-negotiable. Early morning, you have to do your self-study. Swadhyaya, your study of the self, the Vedanta, this knowledge. 5 to 6 for most people, not later, not earlier. And then your physical exercise maybe. If you work early, okay, go to work, do it, exercise in the evening, right? Some time should be put aside for devotion. You can listen to devotional songs, bhajan, you can do your prayer, whatever it is, whatever inspires you. You can watch a nature documentary. That could be devotional. So most of the day has to be taken up with your karma. What is your field of activity? So you have a full schedule. There's no time, right? So when you sleep at night, Vedanta says there should be krita kritya. Krita kritya means that feeling that I did what ought to be done. That fulfillment. When you hit the pillow, today I did what I ought to do, what I had to do, immediately you will fall off to sleep. Otherwise, tossing, turning whole night. The mind is agitated. There is no agitation, so you will sleep. Fellows who are selfish are all the time agitated. How can you sleep? Got it? So anything you relieve is selfish, no? I'm in the house with my spouse, I'm agitated. So I took a walk to relieve. Is that a selfish answer? No. You have to look at the reason, right? Now, why did you get away? So selfishness in two aspects. You either court pleasure or you avoid pain. So most people they're trying to avoid pain. Some people attending this class also, I know, in the same category. At least 1 hour I don't have to listen. Nonsense. Because at least I tell them I'm listening to Gita, they leave me alone for 1 hour. Or something good you're doing. So that's selfish. You shouldn't come here because you're trying to avoid pain of somewhere else. You come here because this is what ought to be done. I need to learn this. Got it? So why you come? Okay, I don't want to be here. Okay. Tiger.
Carry on. In verse 25, where Krishna takes Arjuna in front of Bhishma and Drona, I understand that Bhishma and Drona are fulfilling their obligation, but is this just sort of a note about their level or what they're taking as the highest goal, that they didn't, for example, defect to serve the greater good of the people under the Kauravas' rule? Because isn't the whole concept that they're kind of destroying the nation and country?
See, we've discussed this enough. You got to understand the concept, and that's it. We can't take it beyond that. So, both Bhishma actually is the king of this kingdom. But as a prince, he renounced the kingdom and pledged to protect it. Right? As a soldier. So the day he renounced the kingdom, he became a soldier under the king. Whoever the king is. We're not getting into that now. So whatever time has passed since then, he's old now. Let's say 40, 50 years have passed. He was supposed to be the oldest those days. And 40, 50 years you've been taking a salary, your housing, your life, everything is given by the king. And when the king is saying, go fight for me, sorry, you're not a righteous person, they will not do that. Exactly the same thing with Drona. He was sheltered, he was an incognito, a vagabond. He was sheltered, given a place by the Kaurava king. And whole life he was taken care of. And now when he says you're a soldier, go fight, no, I don't think I can do that for you. They will not. Those days they had a very clear-cut code. You understand? That this is who you fight for. Similarly here, and even today. Otherwise you should not be a soldier. Then you should be a politician to decide what is right and wrong. So now today in the US Army, they've been told to fight. I don't think it's right. They have no business saying that. No army person has a business. He has to fight according to what the country tells him. Right? Otherwise, it's pandemonium. If you're a deciding person, yes. You're a general who decides a council of war. They are the ones who have to, they can say no, right? And discuss amongst themselves. So, in any war crime, those fellows are prosecuted. The inner cabal, right, which decides. Hitler's crimes, all the generals were taken and prosecuted, who had the ability to say no and do something about it. Fellow who doesn't have you can't fault him. So it's like that. So beyond that we don't discuss. Now this class is not to discuss the ethics of war. This is it. This is what they will do. Finished. They will die, but they will not switch on to the other side. It's not possible. So this is the life of a soldier. They're not generals. They're soldiers. Those days, only the king was the general. It was a different system back then. Not a democracy. Where you would sit and decide and wait for the next election. The king told you what to do. You did it. So you must understand the context of those days. They will not go against. So Yudhishthira was a point of fault. That is where he made a mistake. That is not the same situation. I will listen to my elders. Okay, it's a good value. But who are you listening to? Literally, you listen to a mafia fellow because he's an elder? It's like that. You have to use your discretion then. He didn't use. He was fanatically attached to the concept of righteousness. I know so many people who destroyed their life because of that. False sense of righteousness. And people will take advantage of that. So Duryodhana knew, he took full advantage. So this is where your intellect comes in. You got to use a powerful intellect to understand what ought to be done, what ought not to be done in life. It's not easy. You need to understand this knowledge. Slowly you get that clarity. Right.
Question, Satish.
Quick, yeah, go ahead. As long as it's from the text, we can take it up. Satish.
Yeah. Gautamji, I am finding it difficult to find a selfless action while working in a corporate job. Like, for example, if I help my colleague, I help another department, I go out of my own role, I stretch, or I help my stakeholders exceed their expectations. Somewhere, it becomes a selfish, right? In the sense, it builds up directly, it may not give me a benefit today, but indirectly, I will have a better image, better network, better things. So I'm finding it difficult to find a selfless
Before
action,
you continue, you may benefit in the future, but that's not why you're doing it. They're two different things. So you have to be clear that is not why, that is not what propels the action. Then it is selfish. You're right. I am serving, but later on, they'll serve me back. That is business. That's not service. So you do it with a clean attitude as possible. Incidentally, you will benefit. No person who serves the organization will not let you go. How many examples I'll give you from some of you who've told me that they have changed their attitude and the whole thing has changed. So, but that's not why we do it. So you have to constantly make sure your intention is clean. It's a constant exercise. You're absolutely right, because if you're genuine, things will come your way. But you have to make sure you don't get involved in them. It's okay. That's not why I'm doing it. And move on to the next sphere of service. Shilpa?
Namaste, Gautamji.
Your volume is low. Turn up your volume.
Can you hear me now?
It's still soft. Go ahead.
Okay. So
Yeah,
my
better
question,
now.
my question was in realms of the Gita and the war. If you have to bring that in a practical situation in current day life, I mean, how can one remain righteous in an environment that lacks righteousness and where there is judgment because of that?
So you do what you ought to do. How you function has nothing to do with the environment other than taking into account what the consequences of those actions are. So you're in a hospital, you are a doctor, you want to serve the interests of your patients. Now why are you bothered how the other doctors are looking at their patients? Leave them alone. See, you're not responsible for other people's lives. You're not a custodian of others' conscience. So you function the best you can, intelligently, of course. Like I said, don't get fanatic about your ideals and all. That itself is a form of selfishness. I am a righteous person, and that ego you'll develop. So, however best I can be of service, right? See, one guy told me, I still remember, he works in Wall Street, and he said, I don't find inspiration working for my colleagues. They're all selfish. Why should I help them make more money? I said, you make more money. But with that money, what are you doing? Your next vacation home? So serve with that money. Whatever inspires you, however you can be of help. So it's the attitude. Don't worry about others and what they are doing. You are responsible for your life. And just make sure you try and do what you can for others. That's it. But you can't help the environment. At the time of Krishna, do you know what all atrocities the Kauravas did? There will always be unrighteous elements. Right now, the proportion of unrighteous is off the charts. Right? The righteous is very less. But that doesn't mean you cannot be righteous. So you work on what you ought to do. There's enough, more than enough to do. So once he loses his clarity, like I said, the minute you become selfish, intellectual clarity goes, the mind becomes agitated, the body becomes incapacitated. Remember that. You suffer at all three levels of your personality: physical, emotional, intellectual. And once that lack of clarity happens, now you'll see in the next few verses, in fact the rest of this chapter, how Arjuna doesn't know what he's talking. His whole thinking becomes warped. So in the next topic, topic 5, Arjuna tries to justify his false vairagya. Very interesting. He believes he has no value to fight. He believes he's renounced fighting. And he tries to justify it. It's false renunciation. It's not true. And I'll explain to you. And though most of the people who give up something, they fall in this category. So how it works, we'll find out. 31.
निमित्तानि च पश्यामि विपरीतानि केशव न च श्रेयोनुपश्यामि हत्वा स्वजनमाहवे निमित्तानि च पश्यामि विपरीतानि केशव न च श्रेयोनुपश्यामि हत्वा स्वजनमाहवे.
And I see adverse omens, O Keshava. I do not foresee any good in killing one's own kinsmen in battle. Now you see, first thing when your intellect goes, you start seeing things. It's a typical example. When you can't think clearly, you start believing in superstitions and rituals and all kinds of practices. See, all of you should understand, there is a fundamental law. Since many of you are new, I'm telling you, because even basic things nobody knows, There's a fundamental law which governs this entire universe. It's called the law of causation. Causation means cause and effect. For every effect there is a cause, and every cause will produce an effect. This is science. If you don't believe Vedanta, at least believe science. Vedanta is the ultimate science, that's all. So, when you jump out of a window, don't try it. But if you jump out of a window, you will never go up. You will move towards the earth because there's a force called gravity. And you will move towards the earth in a particular speed. 32 meters per second, right? per second. Feet, whatever. That's not important. But there is a law, cause and effect. Now, no person in the world has ever jumped out of his balcony and gone up and started flying. It's not possible. Cause effect. You plant a mango seed, you will get a mango tree. You can't get a coconut tree. Cause and effect. I'm giving simple examples. So everything functions on cause and effect. So when you think clearly, you see life clearly. It's called the law of karma in Sanskrit. Karma means action. Your past actions produce your present nature. Your present nature and mixed with your current actions will produce your future. So you are a prisoner of your past because you've chosen to be through your past actions. But you are free to produce your future. You have the free will. This is karma, cause and effect. Right? So when you don't correlate cause and effect, it's called superstition. That's what he's in. So you will find unscientific people full of superstition. Nothing to do with your education. I know PhDs who are completely illiterate, completely superstitious. Black cat crossed my road. My business is going to fail. They believe that. And in the field of religion, it's rampant. Rampant means rampant. They believe. You go and pray to that particular God, you will get that particular thing. You will go. These are all superstitions. There is no cause and effect. Vedanta doesn't believe in superstition. There is a body, there is a mind, there is an intellect. And beyond the intellect lies your real self. Even that, there's a reason they project that. Not simply somebody saying. The intellect controls the mind controls the body. Straightforward cause and effect. Reason controls emotion, emotion controls the body. These laws you will learn as you go along with your study. And the more your life is aligned with the laws, the more peaceful and happy you'll become. The more successful you'll become. It's as simple as that. It's like you want to do well in an exam, you study. Cause effect. You go and pray, please make me pass. There are fellows who go, there are temples in India for H1 visa. No jokes. They go, the particular temple they believe. You go and pray there that suddenly that consul fellow in the US embassy, something will happen to his hand, he'll sign yes to your petition. Crazy. There's a limit. There's one in north, one in south. I think each region has their own. So you have those qualifications, you get it. You don't not qualified, you don't get it. Now where's the problem? So, and when you're emotional, because your intellect is gone, you will see things what you want to see to justify what you want to do. So you don't feel like going to work, you want to be in bed day. I saw an owl, I saw an owl outside the window. It tells you all this, just kick him, make him go to work. No. So I saw an owl outside the window. I think today, actually he wants to watch the cricket match, nothing else. Work and all, nothing like that. Fellow wants to watch. He'll see all owls and crows and ravens and all that will happen. So that's what he's saying. And I see adverse omens, O Keshava. I see some omens in the sky. It's not right to kill. So he's so overcome by emotion, he doesn't know what he's talking. So you must always function at the level of cause and effect. See, in the context, you must understand there are 4 levels of growth of the intellect. Very important this is. The lowest is called the age of perception, which is the age the animals are in. See, animals only perceive the world. A deer sees a tiger, it runs. A tiger sees a deer, it runs after it. So they function on pure perception. They can't question. Then, in amongst human beings, they started questioning, but they couldn't question correctly. This is superstition. So a guy saw the wind blowing and it was followed by rain. So his conclusion was whenever the wind blows, it rains, right? He's correlating two things, but there's no cause and effect. It's not scientific. This is superstition. Third level is where you correlate cause and effect correctly. This is science. It's called scientific thinking. So a person found out the water evaporates, the clouds are formed. When the clouds reach a particular saturation point, it falls as rain. This is cause and effect. How much ever wind could be blowing, how much ever things could be happening, if that doesn't happen, it will not rain. Correct? You can pray as much as you want for rain. It will not happen. This has to happen. And what's the final state? So the age of scientific inquiry is called gross intellect. It is the intellect functioning correctly in the world. Like medical science, physical science, biological science. Science is nothing but effort to find out cause and effect. The more cause effect find out, the more it grows. But the highest intellect is, it's called Sukshma Buddhi, subtle intellect, where you question, where did this whole cause effect, this world come from? What is beyond all this? What is the source of all this? What is the purpose behind all this? This is called the age of contemplation. This is the spiritual aspect of life. And these are two different things. So a person who's scientific may not be spiritual, but a truly spiritual person, with Vedanta you grow spiritually, but your intellect becomes so evolved because you have to constantly think on this subtle knowledge. So when you apply it in the world, it's very powerful. You become very scientific, logical, systematic in your thinking in the world. So Vedanta is meant for people who are in the age of contemplation, whose subtle intellect has flowered. Those are the people I would like to teach, nobody else. I don't deal with others, trust me. They could be my family, they could be old friends who I was close to. I have no connection, because as long if they don't have a subtle intellect, what do I have to do with them? They're caught up in their own world. There could be a stranger. I always come across one or two powerful, subtle intellect. They want to know what is beyond all this. And what is the test you have a subtle intellect? Now, those of you who are new, anybody? Not the old timers, because these fellows have been hearing me. Suddenly you'll think they're brilliant. Nothing close to that. What is the test that you have your subtle intellect grown or surfaced? started, whatever you want to call it. Anyone? Francia. Oh, I thought Ahimsa is your yoga studio. All right, Francia. Yeah.
I think the test would be when you start to really question and wonder what it's all about. Like, why am I even here? What is this reality that I'm living? And you start to perceive things in a very different manner.
Okay, you're right. That's what I just said, that you question the purpose behind everything. But what is truly the test? See, let me give you this is what we're talking about. I was going to come to explain that. False renunciation, right? False. So suppose you lose a near and dear one. Person will start questioning exactly what you're saying. What is the purpose of life? Why should I be living without this person? Miraculously the person came back alive, all that questioning will go. So actually it's not questioning. They are only in a temporary state of sorrow, which Arjuna is in. And he'll start giving philosophy now, don't worry. Exactly like what you're saying. I don't want, why should I have, I'm not interested in war, I'm not interested in kingdom, I don't need anything in this world. He actually says that when he's fully involved in the world. So what is the actual test that you have entered the age of contemplation? Is my question. Hari Priya. Chitra had a hand up long time, so it can't be the answer to this.
When we are trying to do what we ought to do.
Ought to do.
And not,
this is all
not
very
driven
philosophical.
by our likes and dislikes.
It's too much philosophy for me. I'm philosophied out today. So forget, no, that's not the answer.
Okay.
Anybody else? Sid.
What if you want to look back in the course of the day and check on yourself on what makes you agitated?
That I'll tell you what makes you agitated. You don't have to think too much. That is no
retrospect.
That everybody goes on thinking what agitates them. That has no bearing on the evolution of the subtle intellect. Shilpa.
Chitra has an answer.
Chitra, she is an old student. Shilpa, I don't know. Shilpa?
I'm not able to. Yes, hi. Namaste, Guruji. I believe it is where you start to detach yourself from the outcome.
Detach yourself from the outcome. That could also be painful. I know my son is going to fail. I'm detached from the outcome. I know he's a dumb cat, so why be bothered? But actually, you want him to do well. Saurabh.
I'm just making a guess here. Gautamji, namaste. It is when I'm aware of my intellect all the time.
I'm aware of my intellect all the time. If something doesn't exist, how can you be aware of it, Saurabh? Don't worry. That's not the test.
Okay, thank you.
Shweta. Yes, go ahead. You're unmuted.
Hari Om Gautamji. When you're trying to discover the truth in all the situations and trying to find out what the truth is.
That is called law. You can go to a courtroom for that. That's not the answer.
Okay.
Shiva. See, I'm telling you, everything will come except that. But anyway, try.
Namaste, Gautamji. Namaste, Gautamji. I think it's about understanding yourself. What exactly is self?
What exactly is self? Go to a self-help group. Gunvanti. Now, I'm not being funny. All of your thinking is simply just demolishing everything. It's not easy. I'm trying to prove that.
Namaste.
I think you try to think deeply about the cause and effect on things that's happening in your life.
That is still worldly. Umesh.
Hariom Gautamji. When you start questioning the motivation behind your actions, whether it's unselfish or selfish,
That's all worldly. What is so? Where's the age of contemplation? Okay, since we are going to run out of time, this will go on. Okay, so the test is, you can have everything in the world. You could have the best family. You could have all the money. You could be doing well in your career. And even then you say, there has to be something beyond all this. That's the test. Now why I'm saying that's the test is, you may want something, you don't have it, and you say, I don't want it. If it's there, will you still have the same? That's why I told first, was it Francia or whoever it was? First thing I said, person is not doing well, he says, oh, what is in this world? Let me go to God, let me find out. Minute he starts doing well, all God, everything gone. So the test is, if you have everything in this world which you could dream of, will you still be interested? That's the time you have a real subtle intellect. It's grown. That's the test. And any master knows that. Who's the real student and who's come because their wife told them, if you don't come, you'll be in trouble. This is all external pull or external factors. There should be no external factor. So that's why in the Kathopanishad, see, way before the Gita, there were the Upanishads, which are the actual source of Vedanta. Gita is a much later textbook. It's the most well-known, no doubt, but in the hierarchy, it's way later than the original text, the principal text. So in the Kathopanishad, there's a story of Nachiketas, right, who goes to Lord Yama for Brahmavidya, for this knowledge. And there are tests you have to pass. So first, Yama makes sure he stays outside with no food and no water for 3 days. Can you believe? Because he's saying if a fellow goes away, he's not interested. Keep him out. Let him suffer for 3 days. Where is that? And yesterday I was talking to somebody. He said, I want to arrange a big lecture for you. I said, yeah, okay, great. But you said, don't worry, I know how to fill it. I said, how? I'll just make sure there's food at the end of the lecture. I said, I don't want such fellows. You understand? There's a natural. So, they're not interested. There's a social gathering. We don't want. So, but I have to eat, so I may say yes, I don't know, let's see how it goes. But it's external. So he kept him out for 3 days and 3 nights. And then he caught in. And that's not, he didn't immediately give. He asked him, Nachiketas asked Yama, I want to know Brahma Vidya. What is beyond all this? What is beyond birth and death? This is not a life worth living. You're born like a piece of corn in the field and then you decay and die. I don't see anything in this. What is beyond all this? Nachiketas was prime of youth. So Yama says, what you are asking such these things? Guy like you. Not what you should be doing. So he showed him Vaha Nritya Gita. Vaha means horses, means wealth, best horses. Nritya Gita, damsels, dancers, women, wealth and women, the two cardinal weaknesses. He gave him the best of both. Said, take whatever you want. don't ask me this. Don't ask me this question. And that's the famous Nachiketas. So he told him, Shobhava martasya yadanta kaita. Shobhava means so ephemeral is all this martasya, mortal, death bound. Sarvendriyani jarayanti tejaha. It just wastes away the power of a human life. Jarayanti teja. The whole power you have as a human goes because of this madness. Api sarvam jivitam alpameva. Life is so short. Taveva vastavaniti. Says, keep your horses and your women, man. And that's when he started. That's the Kathopanishad, one of the most famous. So, what I'm trying to say is, where is that? And where are these gurus running after disciples? There's a limit to madness also. A true teacher is one who just gets the knowledge. People will come. They have to come. Where else will they go? Yesterday somebody was telling me, I'm not trying to say I only know the knowledge, but they were saying their friend who they introduced this first time, they were shocked, because they've gone so many places. Nowhere is it explained with logic, reason, somebody answering your questions. So I told her, I said, where else will they go? You tell me. Go wherever you want. No, we also do it. So many of you have come from, because my fellows told me we have to make sure people know, so advertise. I really don't like to do that, to be honest. But there's no choice. Just to make people aware. But to run after a student comes, he doesn't teach. That's the Upanishads. Literally so many. There's not just one, so many. He says, what is beyond all this? He says, ask me after 1 year. Right? 1 year he has to sit there, serving the teacher. You may think he got a free help, domestic help. It's nothing to do with it. He doesn't need. He's more of a botherance. After that he asks. To test him, is he really interested? So that is the age of contemplation, friends. You must understand. Where you want to know. Having everything. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. Ultimately, your lower nature will come forth. Sooner or later, you'll go back to money, family, status. Everybody is caught up. So try and keep yourself. I'm sure all of you have that question, some form or the other. So make sure you pursue it. Don't let it fade away. So Arjuna continues, which we'll do next week. Right? So yesterday I was telling them one thing. Some of you are new, I'm repeating. See, already this is online. You already have a disadvantage, right? So what you should try and do, see, some of you have your cameras on. It's not that I want it on, but having it on will give you that sense that you're in a formal classroom. That somebody is looking at you, you are looking at them. See how you're in an actual hall listening, it's totally different. Your attention is there. If it's off, then you are, go away for some coffee, come back, talk to whoever, take a call. It's not going to help you. I have nothing to do with it. Trust me. By now you should know it doesn't matter to me. I am interested in communicating the knowledge. So you should consider that, to give yourself that external help to concentrate. It makes it totally different. But be presentable. That is important. Otherwise the monitors here will, and don't distract. So it should be here for 1 hour and listen for 1 hour. Like a formal classroom. It will help you. Right. Hari Om. We'll see you next week. Wednesday.